You've talked about trying to unify the party. How do you bring these Nikki Haley voters, some of whom voted for you in 2020 but say they don't want to now?
Oh, they'll all vote for me.
How do you bring them back into the
They're going to all vote for me again. They're going to all vote for me again, everybody. I'm not sure we need too many.
President Trump easily won the state's primary. However, Nikki Haley, who you know suspended her campaign, still got more than 156,000 votes, nearly 17% among Republicans.
But clearly Trump has still got a Nikki Haley problem. Why hasn't Haley come out and actually endorsed Trump yet?
Oh, that's gonna hurt!
Newsmax is wondering whether things are looking up for the former president. You know it's bad.
Donald Trump and President Biden clinching their respective primaries in a key battleground state. Biden took more than 90% of the Democratic vote in Pennsylvania's closed primary. But the surprise of the night came from the GOP race. There were still more than 100,000 voters casting their ballots for former candidate Nikki Haley.
Trump has spent $100 million in legal bills since leaving office in 2021. Most of that money has come from a super PAC that he created on November 9th, 2020, when he started pushing the election fraud lies. So the lie that the election was stolen was not only hugely damaging to our democracy, it was a huge money-making fraud that Trump perpetuated against his supporters. No wonder he kept that lie going, because look how much money he raised from it. Campaign is this huge amount of money he raised on the election fraud is almost gone. Not only does he not have enough money, evidently, to pay all of his mounting legal bills, he doesn't have enough money to run a good campaign. Campaigns cost money. Not only are there things like traveling to rallies and renting out that space, but in order to get elected, you have to do the kind of more intricate but maybe boring things of hiring local people in various cities in the swing states and have that kind of grassroots organization and paying a lot of people. Campaigns also depend on volunteers, but that's a problem he's going to have too, because he has a huge enthusiasm gap. Of course, he's got his MAGA supporters, but you need a big coalition in order to get the volunteers needed if he can't actually pay the type of election get out the vote people that he needs. So that is a big problem for his campaign. And instead of adding to the coalition, and since 2021, he has actually peeled off constituents. The thing is Donald Trump never won a popular vote. Not the first time, not the second time. And why would he win it this time around? Because he has actually turned off more people than ever even tried adding people to his base. A MAGA base, no matter how diehard they may be to him, is not enough to win a national election.
Haley, I agree with you that he is getting a lot of the press attention. The open question in my mind is whether that will be positive for him. When all of the attention is about paying off a porn star, right? It's about all of the criminal indictments, him lying, him acting chaotic. I don't know at the end of the day if that press attention will help him when we know independent voters particularly don't like that chaos. They don't like the lying. They don't like the moral shortcomings and failures of Donald Trump. I actually think that that press attention might hurt him and help Biden in the end.
You're seeing in real time the difficulty Trump is getting in appealing to the Republican base, not just his MAGA base. The Pennsylvania primary was especially embarrassing for Donald Trump because 17% of the Republican primary vote went to Nikki Haley, who had suspended her campaign long ago. That is 158,000 people took the time to either go to the polls and vote or mail in the ballot. Do you know how hard it is to get any voter to come out and vote? Campaigns spend so much money and so much time reminding people when the deadline is, how to get to their polls, how to make their vote. The get out the vote is one of the most difficult parts of any campaign. But here, 158,000 people took the time out of their day, their jobs, their families to put in a vote for somebody who was no longer campaigning. This is how much the Republican base in Pennsylvania doesn't like Trump. And that's a huge problem for the very important state of Pennsylvania, because in 2020, Biden won that state by only 81,000 votes. So Trump desperately needs the 158,000 voters Republican voters who voted for Nikki Haley.
Now, you might remember she suspended her campaign last month after ballots had been printed.
Speaking of a protest vote, Stuart, Nikki Haley received 16% of the vote yesterday. About 150,000 people voted for her. And that isn't interesting because she dropped out about 2 months ago. So look, if former President Trump is going to win Pennsylvania, it's going to have to coalesce the Republican Party here.
We got our first glimpse that Trump and his election fraud lies weren't exactly appealing to voters because his MAGA endorsed candidates lost big time in 2022. The Democrats were able to keep control of the Senate, and the Republican House majority remained so slim that, as we've seen, the GOP has had a very difficult time getting their own speaker or governing whatsoever. This is the diminishing of Trump's power, which, again, having never won the popular vote, he was really not that popular to begin with. And he has peeled away those constituents to actually make himself less popular, not being able to use his political power to sway the Senate or sway the House. And then, as we see in Pennsylvania, not even being able to convince Republican voters to vote for him versus somebody who's not even running anymore. This is Trump's problem, because the fact of the matter is moderate Republicans either don't like Trump because he is way too chaotic. He is way too much of a liability. And at the end of the day, people really only want their government to be functional. They want to go to work and get their paycheck and make sure their family's okay. They don't want to have to worry about whether or not their president is starting a war or is planning on lying to everybody and trying to overthrow democracy by not leaving office. Those aren't exactly actions that appeal to moderates. And the fact is, his legal problems are really bad. Not only is the testimony coming out of the New York election interference case particularly bad, especially with the testimony by the Inquirer talking about, very frankly, what Trump did to even get the office the first time around in 2016. But let's also talk about the classified documents case in Florida. Those Republican moderates care about things like state secrets. They want our CIA officials who have risked their lives to get these secrets to not have done so in vain. So that is a particularly bad case for him. And then we see in Georgia and then now in Arizona, these fake electorate criminal schemes are actually being indicted and brought to justice. And those are two key swing states. So his mounting legal problems really only are a reflection of how corrupt and chaotic he is. And the typical moderate voter doesn't like that.
What are you seeing in polling since the Republican primary ended and the focus has shifted into the courtroom?
Yeah, I think there's this idea that the legal troubles that Trump is facing have somehow helped him, but that's not something that I've necessarily seen in the recent data. So this is Biden versus Trump margin nationally. Look, in January and February, you had a pretty clear Trump lead, right? +5, +4, +5, and you had the Marist poll that had Biden up by 1, but within the margin of error. A Trump lead. Look at what's happened in April, though. All of these polls, all of them have shifted to be more friendly to Biden. +4, +3, +1, but it was plus for Trump back in January and February, and +5 to now +2. So something is cooking, Kate. Something is cooking in the polls, and whatever is cooking seems to be helping Joe Biden. And one of the things that might be cooking is the fact that the attention has turned from the Republican primary now to Trump's legal problems, because that's really been the main thing that's been in the news.
Something is cooking. It sounds nefarious when it comes from Harry Enten. Is there any sign, though, that you're seeing of what it has been suggested, Donald Trump has said it, that this attention, his legal troubles are helping him?
Yeah, so let's take a look here. This is the Biden versus Trump margin by attention paid to Trump's legal cases. This is from a recent New York Times Siena College poll. If you're putting some attention, some or a lot of attention, if you're looking at the Trump trials, look at this. Biden leads among these voters by 8 points. If you're paying little to no attention, Trump leads among these voters by 18 points. So the more people are focusing in on the Trump cases, they're actually more likely to vote for Joe Biden than for Donald Trump. The less attention that you're paying, the more likely you are to vote for Donald Trump. So the fact is, if you're paying more attention, you're more likely to vote for Joe Biden. Less attention, more likely to vote for Donald Trump. So I don't see the case that Trump is making here.
And also, what about if you're paying attention to what Donald Trump is saying about the trial, he's called every case against him, all of the cases, a witch hunt. Are people buying into that?
Not really. So take a look at this question from NBC News, right? Thinking about the upcoming trials, Trump's being held to the same legal standard as others or being unfairly targeted. The plurality, the clear plurality, 50% saying he's being held to the same standard as others versus just 43% who say he's being unfairly targeted. This basically looks like what you would look at 2020, right, where Biden beat Trump by about 4.5 percentage points. This looks very similar. To me, when you put it all together, it looks like the trials aren't helping Trump. They may, in fact, be.
Ironically, his bid to reshape the Supreme Court to overturn the right to an abortion is coming back to bite him, because in a crucial swing state like Arizona, that is going to probably be on the ballot in November. And we have seen time and time again, when abortion is on the ballot, no matter how conservative the state is, it wins, and it brings out voters who care about that issue. And those voters tend not to be in agreement with Trump. So what's standing between Donald Trump and all those Nikki Haley voters? His ego, his unwillingness to embrace anybody who may have thought differently or may not have supported him at one given time will hopefully cost him the presidency. But as you know, we can't count on the other side losing. We have to also turn out our own vote. So as I say, we have to hope, but also vote.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Midas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.